Hello, welcome back to Your Life, Your Way. Happy to have you. I'm your host, Kathleen McDermott. What do we talk about here at Your Life, Your Way? We talk about exactly that, living life on your terms. Most importantly, feeling safe, being you, guilt-free. What does all of that mean? Over the years, it's come to mean a whole lot of different things for me, but it's become the bedrock of how I move forward in my days and weeks and years. And I think a question that I would like to ask in this short episode today is, what is important to you in this lifetime? What brings you joy? What brings you peace? There was a couple of books that came out, and you hear this saying, we don't hear it so much today as we used 2 years ago, but about don't sweat the small stuff. And then you might hear, well, it's all small stuff, or, don't sweat the small stuff, save it for the big stuff. What if we could learn to not sweat the small stuff, but develop methods and tools? We all want to have things that we can maybe use to help us come back to a state of not sweating it. Maybe I see everyone, maybe not everyone does, maybe not everyone thinks that they do need that, but I have found that having tools in place to help me not sweat the small stuff has become a very important part of my life. Living life on your terms. I know some of that ego reaction is, well, that's selfish. But is it? You're given this gift of life to live. And living your life based on how others think that you should, who those people probably don't even have a handle on their own life, this seems like a pretty exhausting, vicious cycle. And it tends to cause us even more stress in life. And an example that I'd like to just look at briefly is chasing things. I've had this conversation yesterday with a friend and mentor about things that we chase and things that we try to force. There are certain things that from our past that, oh God, we'd love to have things be the same. So we want to force things to be like they were in the past. We can't grow. We can't thrive if we're trying to force our life to always be like the past. Things change. Everything changes. It's, that saying, the only thing a factual, true, is going to exist are death and taxes, and that's true. But chasing things and forcing things is another exhausting method. We chase, and I'll include, I'm not really have been what I would say a perfection chaser. Excuse me, mine has been more of a, can I do that? And that voice of fear saying, oh, maybe not. But chasing perfection is quite common. Society has taught us that things have to be, made us think, ingrained that things have to be a certain way. They have to be perfect. Well, perfection is an individual's own perception of what that is. I think of it as a lie. When I say in the morning, I have the first cup of my coffee in the morning, that's perfect for me. That's perfection for me. It's what makes me feel good. It makes me just go in the morning. I love it. But we also chase success. We try to force success. And we also, as human beings, want to chase that next best shiny thing. And honestly, chasing and forcing and getting that next shiny thing, we think all these things, will be happy then. We'll be happy when we've done it. We've reached that perfection. We'll be happy when we've been that success, reached that success that we've been striving for. When we get the new car, we get the new, what was that thing that was out recently? That tumbler, that drink, what the heck was that called? I'm sure someone will tell me. The next shiny thing. It's done, it's over with. When you get that next shiny thing, how long is it before now you want the next thing that you're not happy, you want the next thing. We're not going to talk about happiness today, but I just want to lay the groundwork for thinking about chasing. Look, when you go out and drive, how many people are just flying in their vehicles, just driving and chasing and getting to their destination as fast as they can possibly get to. We've become such a society of fast-paced speed, get there. And that saying, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And when we're constantly chasing and forcing and sweating the small stuff and getting that next shiny thing, we're missing out so much here in the moment and now. And I know you probably maybe you get sick of hearing that, oh, be in the present moment. But it's true. There is so much in the now. But some of what's in that now, let's face it, if you were honest with yourself, there are probably things in that now that you are avoiding. It's easier to chase and force and speed and look for that next new thing so that we don't have to face, so that you don't have to face whatever it is that's troubling you or eating away at you, that's giving you anxiety, that's hurting you. Whatever it is, it's easier, is it easier to look out there and chase and try to survive versus thriving? Sweating the small stuff. Let's look at the small stuff, and let's look at the small stuff. I love to call them daily pokes on a more frequent basis, but they're not huge things. They're just irritants that just make you go, oh, and sometimes say some dirty words. My experience in working with my clients and my own personal journey is to try, we want to just jump and have everything fixed yesterday. We want to have everything, well, that's first you have to admit there's something you want to fix that needs to be fixed or taken care of, dealt with, whatever. In order to do that, there has to be a starting point. There has to be some way to get your footing. The first thing I always say to my mom when she gets up out of the chair or she gets out of the truck or whenever she's going to get up and start walking, I always say, what do I say? Just get your bearings. I always say, get your bearings. Get your footing first, get your bearings, make sure you feel okay to move forward. And that's the whole place to start when you want to begin to not sweat the small stuff, when you want to begin to have more ease, more calm, more joy, more peace. But how do we do that? There is no shortfall of tips and tools and methods and solutions and all kinds of things that are in their own way are very good, but they aren't necessarily yours. And by that, I mean, they're not necessarily the right tools and methods for you, your needs, abilities, desires, your journey. And that might sound silly to you, but it's the truth. Your journey is different than everybody else's. It doesn't mean that you're, if you have 10 people that are going through a divorce, you're all going through the divorce, but you're all experiencing it in your own way. And it's the same with anything else. It doesn't mean that your pain is any less or any more. It just is yours. And that's to be honored, and it's to be handled in the way that's best for you. But how do you come to that realization or determination, discovery? And I also like to compare it to jogging, running, which you will never see me doing. But it's very common thought process that, oh, if I want to lose weight, I should go running. How many times have you seen someone out running and my heart goes out to them because they just feel like they're just not comfortable. They're struggling, and maybe in time it does get better and they learn to love it, and it's their passion. But a lot of times I like to think, whether I like to or not, but how long do they stick with it? It's kind of like the first of the year, we set resolutions. I don't set resolutions. I gave that up years ago. That's another conversation. But how many times have you set a resolution? I've been there, done it, so I don't do them anymore. You set it, oh, you're all gung ho in January. And by the end of the month or halfway through February, if you make it that long, it's done. There's reasons for that. It doesn't mean that you're a failure. It doesn't mean that, just it doesn't work. It's just not yours. And you also have to have a particular readiness to want to begin to make, and I know the C word, we don't like that C word of change, but in order to make change, you have to really want to. You have to want it. It's like quitting smoking. You have to want to. So in order to have a place where you get your bearings, you have a foundation, you get a place of comfort and safety. And by that, I mean starting small, starting with the daily irritants. For example, if you go out driving, I know with the area that I live in, which is Aiken, South Carolina, since I moved here 4.5 years ago, traffic has picked up a bit. We've had a lot of folks move into Aiken, and we have also an influx of people during certain times of the year for polo and for other things. And it's a huge equestrian area. So we have a lot of people that come in for events. So the traffic gets quite, how shall we say, busy, bumper to bumper sometimes. And it has also increased the amount of accidents, sad to say. Again, some of that comes back from the cause of rushing, trying to get somewhere. And people are not happy with this abundance of traffic and the fact that they have to sit in it and it's taking them longer to get to their destination. We've had some road repairs going on. People are really not happy with that. No, we don't like the potholes or the ruts in the road, but we certainly don't want it fixed when I have to drive through there. That's a big thought process. Let's face it, this might be a trigger, but we certainly don't like to be inconvenienced, do we? My opinion is on that, make sure you pee before you leave the house and take a snack, just in case. But it's a trigger, and it's something that is going to be more frequent because you're driving more, and it's likely to be a more, hopefully not daily, excuse me, but it's going to be more of an occurrence on a weekly basis. You might also find that you have to go certain places. You have to go to the market more than once a week or some type of store. And if you're waiting in line, that can be a trigger. And it can simply be if you're a parent, you're a mom, you have children. Those are my two. And those are my babies up there. Of course, they're not that little anymore. They're all grown up. But as a parent, you have those irritants. There are things that just we have become habitually reactive to them. We've become very less patient. I can relate to that one. I've had to work hard through the years in practice and what are my priorities and to improve my level of patience. The biggest area that I still struggle in is driving. Not because I'm trying to get where I want to go. I'm more or less, my impatience and my trigger are when people are putting others at risk. But that's, again, another conversation. But I'm honest about it, the fact that that's an area that I still wish I had a little bit more patience in. But I will say that I do know the root of that, and that is fear. That's fear. So that's something that I'm continuing to work on. So don't feel that I'm trying to say that you do the work and everything's all glorious. There's always a practice. And it doesn't mean that when you've done the work that everything is going to be ease, joyful, and peaceful all the time. You are going to have things to practice on, but I promise you it gets easier. So if you're starting in a way of finding out what are ways, number one, are you ready? finding that quiet, which is number 2, finding that space in which to really ask yourself to be honest, truly honest with yourself. Are you ready to get off the hamster wheel, the roller coaster ride, get out of the Groundhog Day? Are you ready to stop feeling so stressed and emotionally overwhelmed and just exhausted? You weren't meant, none of us were meant to live that way. That is not what life was meant to be. You have to ask yourself those things first and at least get enough solid answers to move to the next so that you can get more answers. And number 2 is to get out of the noise. There is so much noise going on here in your head and out in the world. We drown in noise, and that is a definite feeder to our lack of patience. It wears on us, the constant noise, the constant feeling of being on and taking it all in. It's exhausting. And whether you realize it or not, it wears away at our nervous system, which is the primary point of me just pointing out and discussing this, getting your bearings in this foundational starting place. Being ready, quieting the noise. It can be, I understand, it can feel intimidating to be in quiet and stillness. As a restorative yoga teacher for stress relief, believe me, I've had many clients who struggle in those quiet, still poses. But when you allow yourself that space to breathe and be, it takes a few minutes, but you can surrender to it and not feel so intimidated. But you can feel safe. Again, another conversation. But getting out of that noise, because what happens when you can get yourself into some quiet and stillness, you can allow yourself to hear the answers that you're asking yourself. If you're asking yourself, am I really ready? Am I really tired of this? Is it time for me to just do something different, to feel something different? You can hear those answers better when you're in some quiet, in some stillness. Bonus of that is it helps to calm your nervous system, which allows you to hear the answers more. Now, I will be honest with you. Another reason that people avoid the quiet and stillness, I've been there, is stuff comes up. There are things that you may not want to face. You may not be thinking that you're ready to face and deal with it. And they can come up in that quiet. But I'm telling you something, they're coming up in other areas of your life. They're coming up in ways that are not healthy for you and those you love most. Number 3 is then taking the step to say, okay, how can I find out what is right for me? What does that even mean? And I'll give you an example. You heard me mention the nervous system. You've probably also heard the mind-body connection. You've also heard things like change your thoughts, change your life. You all great, but missing something. It is a mind-body connection. You cannot heal one without the other. You have to remember that it's all one. And of course, then you think, well, why wouldn't my mind and body be connected? We're in the same vessel. You would think so. You would think so. It would make sense, but it's not true. And this is a huge, longer discussion, which we can't get into all of it today. And I will touch on more in another episode, but it's an in-depth. And the reason I'm saying that is not only your mind carries what's gone on in your life, those memories, your body does too. And having the right methods to help you, and I'll use the word heal. I'm going to say that a lot, it's heal. I'm not here to say what I do as a coach and a teacher and a guide, a mentor. I don't call myself a healer, and I'm not taking away from anyone else who does. For me personally, it's about healing yourself and having someone, if it's right for you, having someone to help you feel safe on that journey, to help guide you through their personal experience and their education, can be so much less daunting on the path is when you have someone supporting you. So my place is to help you heal yourself. So with that being said, coming out of within the noise and within the quiet and stillness, you can begin to discover what types of things are right for you. This is why I also teach adaptive yoga. This is why I went into adaptive yoga in the first place, before I even really realized the depth. Because when I was originally, I'll say, called to learn, I wanted to learn to teach so that everybody had an opportunity to practice their yoga. And this is really where Your Life, Your Way started to bloom for me, and is a whole huge, long, wonderful journey that I've been on. And it hasn't all been roses either. There's been really tough times in there. Um, but the adaptive taught me and gave me the opportunity to see the ability within myself to work with this beautiful practice and helping others create their life their way, but through learning that perfect pose that you see in pictures and videos and even in the class. They're not yours. They may be, but for the most part, they're not yours, because until you're in that pose and you feel what's right for your body, emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually, it's not perfect until it's yours. And then it's only perfect to you in that moment, because it can also change the next time you're there, which is a lot of conversations putting off. But my point in sharing this is that it's learning through the adaptive gave me the opportunity to grow and learn that there are ways to live your life on your terms and not take away from others that you love, but to actually have it enhance their life as well. How you discover tools, methods, solutions that work for you is, yes, it's by trial and error. Maybe you tried something at one point in time. Go back to the running, the jogging. Maybe you tried it and that's just not for you, but maybe adapting that differently. Maybe you don't want to go just to walking. You'd like to have a pace, so maybe speed walking. Or whether it's walking, if you live near a beach, walking in sand. Is it walking on a walking bike path? It's about finding, not definitely saying no to something, but okay, that's not for me, but how can I make something similar or just adapt it to what my needs are? This is a whole deep conversation, and it is a practice, and it's something that we work on to help you find the tools that are right for you. And the reason that they have to be right for you as far as the light at the end of the tunnel is just that. If you have some tools that you can go to immediately out driving, something that you can grab onto when you feel yourself, as I call it, going over the edge, or if you are in just a place with your children, it's been a day, maybe you're a teacher, you have students, maybe at work of coworkers, you have a boss. There are things that are just, you're trying to swallow and you're trying to get through. And maybe sometimes you do, excuse me, maybe sometimes you do lose, you do go over the edge. We've all been there. But to be able to have just a couple of things, 2 or 3 things that you can access wherever you happen to be, not adding more to your to-do list, not anything more you have to carry, but just something, little small couple of things that you can access that help either head it off at the pass when you feel it coming on, or if you've started to react, you can bring yourself back. And if you've definitely gone over the edge, to when you begin to clear a little bit, to go to these tools and help them bring you back. And when I say bring you back, I mean not just taking you out of the situation and calming you down, but helping your nervous system. Everything that you go through, remember, it's not just up here, you're not just seeing it, your whole self, your whole body is feeling it. And your nervous system reacts, that fight or flight mode. We can get stuck in that. You could be stuck in it and not even realize it. It's not that uncommon, which is sad to say, but this is the where our society is come to. It's just that pace that you have to succeed, you have to live and be a certain way. And if you don't, you're not worthy, you're not good enough, you're not perfect. It's created a mindset of just that constant, I have to keep going, I have to keep going. Well, how's it working for you? If that's your mindset, I'll be short and say, how's it working for you? Because it affects your health, it affects your relationships, your work, and most of all, worst of all, if you have them, it affects your children. It affects them. And that's another vicious cycle we just need. You can be the one to break it. These tools are sensory tools. They are, yes, breathing tools. You might get tired of hearing that, just breathe. Well, it's more important than, obviously, it's important because we don't, we die. But there's methods of breathing that can help with your blood pressure, your heart rate, calming your nervous system. Excuse me. And there are other things that you can access. These smaller things also do help you to see that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, so that you can say, okay, I have this in place. I'm having some good days. I'm feeling less anxious and tension and stress by handling the smaller things. Not saying that you're going to be that you're going to eliminate it all, because you're not. It's about learning to flow through these things, because ultimately it's life. The bigger stuff is going to happen. The big stuff is going to happen. There are going to be losses. There are going to be hurts in ways that we never want to have happen, but they do. And in order to get through those things, if you don't have, and I know this from personal experience, even though I was teaching, I hadn't really grasped as I was going to need these on a grander scale. You know, they're saying practice what you preach, practice what you teach. And we can get more into that, because that is an important part to understand where you are and how these tools can really help you face the traumas in life, the really hard stuff in life, because those types of things can really knock you on your fanny. They can knock you down. It can be hard to come back, not impossible, but we can also get stuck in those dark places too, and nobody wants that. So by having your bearings, having the foundation, starting at a place that allows you to build a safe zone, not a comfort zone, but a safe zone, so that you can begin to create some new habits, these new tools that you have to help you with the smaller stuff, not sweat the small stuff so much, make adjustments. And then from there, if you're ready, again, this is another point where we come back and say, ask yourself the question, am I ready to dig deeper? Am I ready to go further? By that, I mean, the reason there is more than just how the fast pace of society. There is more underneath as to why we have the thoughts and the reactions and the beliefs and the perceptions that we do. There is a much deeper excuse me, there's a much deeper reason. And that is what I call doing the archaeological self-dig, because we don't want to look back and get stuck there. But in order to understand where we are right now and how we got here, you have to look back. And I'm not saying getting lost in any past traumas. That's not what it's about. It's not about reliving anything, but it's about taking a look, gaining understanding that, oh, okay, I'm not broken, because you aren't. Something might feel that happened in your life that you might feel did break you, but been there. I've there was a time I felt very broken, but that was just a case of having to ask myself some hard questions. Again, another time. The history. Remember I said if you have children, your children are watching. If you have children, they're watching. They're listening. They're watching. They're just seeing whether, even if it's just a facial expression, they're watching how you react to things. And they're also exposed to society. So it's a cycle. It's a cycle. And it's not about looking back. I've said this, you've probably heard me say this, I'm sure if you've been listening, which if you have, thank you, that it's not about looking back. It's not about blame, shame, or excuses. It's just discovery, finding those aha moments. And when you have the aha moment, you have that understanding. Okay, I see where that came to be. I see that that's not really mine. So I've carried it long enough. Where do I go from here, with or without it? That's the journey forward. The reason I'm mentioning that now, we're not going to get into that now, but that journey forward is kind of hard to do, to just dive in if you don't have some safety tools in place for you to have your bearings, so that you feel like it's kind of like climbing up steep stairs with no railing. You have that railing, it gives you a little feeling of comfort and safety and support. So that's my message for today about not sweating the small stuff and chasing the perfection and chasing the next shiny thing and the success. And it's not bad to want to be successful at something, not at all. But there's a difference between chasing and forcing and harming yourself physically, mentally, emotionally. There are ways to achieve your goals by understanding a lot of what's underneath first and where a lot of that came from. Living life on your terms is a beautiful thing. It's a journey worth taking. And as I said, it's not about eliminating people from your life. It's not about turning people away, because part of that living life in your terms is setting boundaries. If you're a people pleaser, it can be very hard to set those boundaries. We'll talk about that in depth as well. But learning to say no also means learning to say yes to yourself. And let's face it, how often do you say yes to you? How often do you show yourself so much love and kindness and good thoughts? We judge ourselves harshly. We've been taught to judge ourselves harshly. Just one example is our bodies. Oh my gosh. So maybe I send you off today with a little bit of just love yourself a little bit more today. Let your not sweating the small stuff start with you. Just give yourself a little bit more love. And then maybe tomorrow, a little bit more love, and a little bit more each day. Give yourself a little hug and give yourself some grace. And remember, your life is your gift to live on your terms, to feel safe, being you, guilt-free. I wish you a whole lot of peace, a whole lot of joy, and many blessings. Thank you for being here in the Your Life, Your Way community, and I'll see you next time.